20 rarest cars in Jay Leno's garage you'll never see on the road. Jay Leno keeps 181 cars inside a garage the size of an airplane hangar. Some of them are worth millions. Some of them are one of them. And one of them was hand-built by a 17-year-old kid using junkyard scraps. From a car powered by a World War II fighter plane engine to a Corvette so rare only 7 exist. These are 20 incredible cars you will never see anywhere else. Number 20. 1991 GMC Cyclone. This story alone tells you everything about Jay Leno. He needed to pick up some Christmas decorations from a store, and they wanted to charge him $25 for delivery. Jay thought that was ridiculous. So instead of paying $25, he went out and bought a brand new GMC Cyclone for $36,000 just to haul the decorations himself. The Cyclone was a turbocharged all-wheel drive pickup truck that could hit 60 miles per hour in 4.3 seconds. Faster than a Corvette at the time. He still calls it his valet truck and uses it to move stuff around the garage. Only about 2,995 Cyclones were ever built, and Jay bought his over a $25 delivery fee. That is absolutely the most Jay Leno thing ever. Number 19. 1904 Curved Dash Oldsmobile. This car is older than sliced bread. Literally. The Curved Dash Oldsmobile came out in 1901 and is considered one of the first mass-produced automobiles in American history. It had a tiny single-cylinder engine making about 7 horsepower and a top speed of 20 miles per hour. Jay's 1904 model is one of the oldest vehicles in his entire collection, and he still fires it up and drives it. Watching a man cruise down a California road in a car from 1904 is one of those things that just does not make sense until you see it, and things are about to get much wilder from here. Number 18. American LaFrance Fire Truck. Jay got this massive red fire truck for free. $0. Warner Brothers Studios originally bought it, then sold it to the Burbank Airport Fire Department. When the truck reached the end of its service life, it just sat there on the runway collecting dust. Nobody wanted it. Then Jay showed up, and the airport basically said, "Take it." So he did. Now this giant, shiny red fire truck sits between Lamborghinis and McLarens inside his garage. It is worth somewhere between $40,000 and $100,000 today, and it cost him absolutely nothing. Number 17. 1970 Dodge Challenger RT. American muscle does not get more pure than this. The Challenger RT was a car every teenager in 1970 had taped to their bedroom wall. Jay's example packs the legendary 440 cubic inch V8 that could spin the rear tires on command. In the early 70s, cars like this were everywhere. Today, clear original examples are almost impossible to find because most of them were either wrecked, rusted out, or modified beyond recognition. Jay's Challenger still looks like it just rolled off the factory floor. Number 16. 2005 Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren. This was a joint project between Mercedes-Benz and McLaren, and the result was a grand touring beast that could hit 207 miles per hour with a top-end 5.4-liter supercharged V8. It could go from 0 to 60 in 3.3 seconds, and it had doors that swung upward like butterfly wings. Jay says the SLR is his fastest everyday driving car, the one he takes on the highway when he actually wants to cover some serious ground. Only about 2,000 SLR McLarens were made across all body styles, and the car has quietly become a collector's item. But this next one was designed by the same man who created Bentley. Number 15. 1935 Delahi 135S. If you have never heard of Delahi, do not feel bad. Almost nobody has. This French carmaker built some of the most beautiful machines of the 1930s and then vanished after World War II. The 135S was a race car and road car at the same time, powered by a 3.6-liter inline-six that was tuned for competition. These cars competed at Le Mans and won races across Europe. Jay's example is one of the few surviving 135S models in the world, and it is a car that most collectors would trade half their garage just to sit inside. Number 14. 1981 DeLorean DMC12. You already know this car because of Back to the Future, but the real story of the DeLorean is crazier than the movie. John DeLorean left General Motors, raised millions of dollars, built a factory in Northern Ireland, and created a stainless steel sports car with gull wing doors. The whole thing fell apart when he got caught up in a drug trafficking sting operation. The company went bankrupt after building only about 9,000 cars. Jay's DeLorean sits in the garage as a reminder that sometimes the wildest car stories happen off the screen. And speaking of wild stories, wait until you hear about number 13. Number 13, 1966 Chevrolet Corvair Yenko Stinger. Don Yenko was a Chevy dealer in Pennsylvania who thought the Corvair was way too boring, so he took matters into his own hands. He ripped out the standard engine and dropped in a modified 190 horsepower flat 6, added a sport suspension, and turned the Corvair into a real racing machine. To get racing approval, Yenko had to build 100 of them in just 1 month. He then built 14 more over the next few years, bringing the total to just 114 Stingers ever made. Jay owns a Stage 2 version, and it is one of the coolest sleeper cars in American history. Number 12, 1971 Dtomaso Panta. The Pantera was an Italian body wrapped around a Ford V8 engine, and that combination created something magical. It looked like $1 million, but cost a fraction of what a Ferrari or Lamborghini went for. You could actually buy one at your local Ford dealership in the early 1970s. That sounds like a dream, right? Well, the problem was reliability. These cars broke down constantly, and Ford eventually gave up trying to sell them in America. Jay's Pantera is one of the good ones, fully sorted out and running strong. Elvis Presley famously owned a Pantera too, and once shot his with a gun when it would not start. Number 11, 1928 Bugatti Type 37A. Bugatti in the 1920s was not about luxury. It was about racing. The Type 37A was a supercharged 4-cylinder racing machine that dominated European circuits. These cars were built to be light, fast, and dangerous. There was no roof, no windshield worth mentioning, and barely any brakes. Drivers sat in the open air at over 100 miles per hour with nothing between them and the road. Jay's Type 37A is a gorgeous piece of pre-war racing history that most car museums would love to get their hands on. But this next car has an engine from a World War II fighter plane. Number 10, 1930 Bentley 27 liter. Read that number again. 27 liters. This car has a Rolls-Royce Merlin V12 engine under the hood, and these are the exact same engines that powered the P-51 Mustang fighter planes during World War II. The engine produces around 1,000 horsepower and over 1,800 pounds of torque. The car was built by bolting this massive aircraft engine into a vintage Bentley chassis, and the result is one of the most insane driving machines ever created. Jay loves talking about this car because the engine alone weighs more than most modern sedans. When he fires it up, people in neighboring buildings can feel the vibration. Number 9, 1916 Crane Simplex Model 5 Holbrook Skiff. Most people have never heard the name Crane Simplex. In the early 1900s, this was one of the most expensive and exclusive cars money could buy. The Model 5 had a massive engine for its time and was built with materials and craftsmanship that rivaled anything from Rolls-Royce. The Holbrook Skiff body style gave it an open-air boat-like design that was popular among wealthy Americans. Very few of these survive today, and Jay's example is in running condition, which is almost unheard of for a car that is over 100 years old. Number 8, 1936 Cord 812. The Cord 812 was decades ahead of its time. It had front-wheel drive, a supercharged V8, hidden headlights that popped out of the fenders, and a design so futuristic that people in 1936 thought it came from another planet. The company only lasted a few years before going bankrupt, making the Cord 812 one of the rarest American cars ever built. Jay calls it one of the greatest designs in automotive history, and he is not alone. The Cord 812 regularly shows up on lists of the most beautiful cars ever made. And speaking of rare, only 25 of the next car exist. Number 7, 1953 Cunningham C3. Briggs Cunningham was a rich American racer who wanted to beat the Europeans at Le Mans, so he built his own car company. The Cunningham C3 was designed in Italy by Giovanni Michelotti and powered by a 5.4-liter Chrysler Hemi V8, making 220 horsepower. It was built purely to meet racing rules that required a certain number of road cars to be produced. Only 25 C3 coupes were ever made, and Jay owns one of them. At a price of about $9,000 to $10,000 back in the 1950s, it was insanely expensive for its time. Today, it is worth several $100,000. Number 6, 2004 Porsche Carrera GT. The Carrera GT is the car that Porsche engineers built when they decided to go absolutely crazy. It was a naturally aspirated 5.7-liter V10 engine producing 605 horsepower, and it sounds like nothing else on the road. Porsche originally developed this engine for a Le Mans race car project that got canceled, but instead of throwing it away, they stuffed it into a road car. Only 1,270 were ever produced between 2004 and 2007, and the car has a reputation for being one of the most difficult and unforgiving supercars to drive. There is no electronic safety net, no traction control helping you out. If you mess up, the Carrera GT will punish you hard and fast. Jay respects this car because it demands real skill behind the wheel, and it rewards drivers who know what they are doing. Number 5. 1934 Rolls-Royce Phantom 2. Jay took a beautiful 1934 Rolls-Royce and turned it into a monster. He pulled out the original engine and replaced it with a Rolls-Royce Merlin V12, the same engine used in World War II Spitfire fighter planes. The result is 1,000 horsepower and 1,806 pounds of torque stuffed inside a car that looks like it belongs at a fancy English tea party. From the outside, you see elegance. From inside, you feel raw terror. Jay has said that when he hits the gas, the car moves so violently that your head snaps back against the seat. Number 4. 2009 Corvette ZR1, number 001. Jay does not just own any ZR1. He owns the very first one ever built, serial number 001. The ZR1 was the king of the Corvette lineup, packing a supercharged 6.2-liter LS9 V8 that made 638 horsepower. It could hit 205 miles per hour, making it the fastest production Corvette at the time. Owning the first ZR1 off the line is like owning a piece of Corvette royalty, and Jay has put real miles on it, because that is what he does with every car in his garage. Now, this next car is the one a viewer called out, and honestly, it deserves all the attention. Number 3. Pratt Miller Corvette C6RS. This is a Corvette that most people have never heard of, and that is a shame. Pratt Miller is the engineering company behind Corvette Racing, the team that won 8 class victories at Le Mans. In 2006, they decided to build a road-legal version of their C6RS race car. They started with a Corvette Z06, ripped off the body panels and replaced them with carbon fiber, then dropped in a massive 8.2-liter V8 built by K-Tech that makes 600 horsepower and 600 pound-feet of torque naturally aspirated. No turbos, no supercharger, just 8.2 liters of American muscle running on E85. Jay bought the very first one at the 2007 SEMA show because he was so impressed he could not walk away. Only 7 C6RS models were ever built, and each one cost $185,000 on top of the donor Z06. Jay says the interior took 150 hours of hand stitching, and he calls it the greatest Corvette interior he has ever seen. Number 2. 1963 Corvette Split Window Coupe Fuelie. The 1963 Split Window Coupe is the holy grail for Corvette collectors. It was the only year Chevrolet made the Stingray with that split rear window design, and they did it because designer Bill Mitchell insisted on it, even though engineers said it killed rear visibility. The Fuelie version is even rarer because it came with Rochester mechanical fuel injection, which most buyers did not order at the time. Jay's example is a clean, original car that represents the single most collectible Corvette ever produced. These cars sell for several $100,000 at auction, and the best ones push past $500,000. And the number 1 spot goes to a car that nobody else on earth has. Number 1. 1931 Shotwell. This is the rarest car in Jay Leno's entire collection, and the story is unbelievable. A 17-year-old kid named Bob Shotwell needed a car but had no money. His father told him to build one. So Bob and his dad went to a junkyard in Minnesota, bought some spare parts, and the teenager hand-built his own car from scratch. The engine is a 1931 Indian motorcycle 77 cubic inch motor making about 40 horsepower, paired with a 3-speed transmission. The car has 3 wheels, 2 in the front and 1 in the rear, and the whole thing is so light that old photos show young Bob lifting it off the ground by 1 wheel. Jay accepted this car on one condition. He promised Bob he would never sell it. You cannot put a price on the Shotwell because it has never been sold and never will be. It was built by a teenager, driven by that same man for decades, and then handed to Jay Leno to protect forever. In a garage full of million-dollar machines, this hand-built 3-wheeler might be the most special thing in there. That is Jay Leno's garage. 181 cars, 100 years of history, and stories you will not hear anywhere else. Subscribe and catch the next one.